Well, everybody, as you all know, I'm a huge Thomas fan. I love Thomas the Tank Engine. However, I finally found out what Thomas movie I actually don't like. So before I begin, I'd just like to say your opinions are perfectly valid. If you like this movie, that's great. If you are not a huge fan of this movie, then please, well, yeah. Feel free to discuss the reasons why you dislike it down in the comments. But anyway, for those of you who do like this movie, please don't attack me or give me shit for this, please. This is just my opinion. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, first, let me just mention the pause. First, a brief summary. This movie is basically about Thomas finally getting to see the world. And by see the world, I mean he literally gets to see the world. Like, he goes to Africa, then he goes to Brazil, then he goes to America, then he goes to China, and then he travels through India, and then he's back on Sodor. So, um, now let's talk about the good. I like how the engines are obviously still like engines. The songs are catchy, like "Free and Easy," "Wake Up," "We're Friends." "Where in the World is Thomas" is probably my favorite song. "Sometimes You Make a Friend" is powerful. Like, the music's great. I'm just gonna give him that much. However, um, oh wait, we'll get to that later. I need to mention more of the good. I sort of like how they developed Nia's story. Honestly, her story was more developed than Rebecca's, because Rebecca just came along out of nowhere, which was unnecessary and which just shoved up our asses, basically. Basically crammed it down our throats. They crammed Rebecca straight into our face, instead of what they did with Nia, introducing her in this movie. I think that was clever. Now, with all the good out of the way, let's talk about the bad. I did mind the bouncing on the wheels, but I did mind how unrealistic the trains looked. They basically recycled old train models, and as for the cargo and stuff, it's basically your standard British cargo. Even in America, they don't even have any American box cars or freight cars. It's just troublesome trucks. Like, there's a scene of Bo, who's the American engine, and he's pulling troublesome trucks, except they're not troublesome trucks. They're basically just trucks that are red. Then the trucks in Africa are basically troublesome trucks, but they don't act troublesome. Same thing for the trucks in Brazil that go to America. Like, for some reason, they just decided to throw railroad tracks in the middle of random places too. Like in the Amazon rainforest, there's train tracks, and there's also a broken bridge. And then not to mention that there's like tracks that are in like this weird train yard where it's like near the gateway, the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever. Like, honestly, why the Golden Gate Bridge in the background? That's not actually not where it. That's actually not how it would be. Like, I get that they're trying to show that they're in San Francisco, but why just put the bridge in there in the background saying, "Oh, hey, look, Tom's is in San Francisco," and then, not to mention that, well, Ace was just, Ace was a bit of a jerk. I mean, I guess that's how they wrote him to be, but he was just so, my goodness, he was so mean spirited. And he also breaks the law, basically. That's why in a future Drew Tom's Friends episode, I'm gonna have to where Ace gets pulled over by Nick and Judy, and they pretty much boot him and basically put him off the road for a while. Honestly, though, everything just about the movie baffles me. How it's stereotypical, and the train cargo is literally just Island of Sodor trucks. They also use semaphores. Like, why can't they use like actual light up signals, like how it is in like the real world? All they just have are semaphores, and not to mention British looking signal houses. Like, they couldn't even bother to create new engines or new cargo. Like, why? Plus, for the coffee train that Thomas and Nia pull, they aren't even sealed in box cars. Like, they could have at least sealed them in American box cars, but no, they had to use the troublesome trucks because they're once again doing Miller stuff where they just have it to where, well, at least not a single wagon. If they were just pulling a single wagon, that would just be pointless. At least they're actually pulling a long train of it. But why Why is it that they're using British trucks? Like, it makes no sense. Um, Honestly, Sir Topham Hatt going around the world to see Thomas was not his best decision. Why shouldn't? Why couldn't he? Why couldn't he have just traveled on Harold the helicopter, or well, sent a helicopter, or sent Harold the helicopter to find Thomas? Like, why? Why does Sir Topham Hatt have to go on a ship so he can catch up to Thomas and bring him home? What's it gonna do? Just pick him up and take him back on the track or something? Is it just going to take control and drive him to the nearest dockyard so he can be put on a ship back to Sodor? Like, why? Why is it that while Sir Topham Hatt is just going on this wild goose chase against Thomas, and in the end, he doesn't even find Thomas. He's just on the ship, and then Ace notices the picture of Thomas, and that's it. The movie just ends there, almost like it's a cliffhanger. Then when the series starts for Big World, Big Adventures, they treat it as if nothing happened. Like, why? Like, they should have made an episode finishing off that story bit. Honestly, this movie shouldn't have even been made. I rode I went to my first day with Thomas during the Big Adventures tour, and the thing was, they didn't even premiere BWBA in America until 2019 when they finally premiered on Nick Jr. And then but that was only like once, and it was like early in the morning, which no kid's gonna be awake for that. They might be in school or something, or they might be still sleeping. Like, why? Why? Honestly, this movie was is probably one of my number one least favorite Thomas movies of all time, higher than Day of the Diesels or Misty on Rescue. Heck, Magic Railroad, which is a great movie in my opinion, it wasn't as bad as this because at least they got the trains right in America because they use a real steam locomotive and passenger coaches on a real steam railroad, that being the Strasburg Railroad. That's what they used for the Indian Valley Railroad. Honestly, this is why this movie will not fit in Magic Road canon because if it did, then Thomas could just travel through the Magic Road to Muffle Mountain, then boom, he would be in America. But no, he just has to follow Ace around the world. When Tom said he wanted to see the world, he wanted to pull trains, not to go on some crazy adventure where he learns lessons and stuff. Anyway, Big World, Big Adventures, I'd give it a 1 out of 10. Anyway, so like, subscribe to the channel, and remember, I will not be featuring Nia or Rebecca on Drew Thomas and Friends because BWBA never happened in the Drew Thomas universe. Anyway, this is Drew Thomas signing off. Good night, and pickle suck.